whatever you do, don't ever mix vines with stones. When you decide to remove either of the two, you will hate yourself. So I have the first coat of bluish gray on. I think I need to do a second one tomorrow. The 1 gallon was enough to do all this with some left over, but I got some more coming tomorrow. But it looks pretty good. Definitely now that there's some definition between the closet and the wall, you can see that that is not a right angle anymore, or never was, I guess. And the opening tips up as you go off to the right. But I got this. This is painted. I think I'll do another touch up tomorrow, another coat tomorrow. I'm still waiting for the matching white to show up, and some of this looks like it might not have been a good enough coat down here. So I'll just do another coat tomorrow, and then it'll be ready. So I've painted, I've pulled all the tape. I got a good coat this time, so now I need to clean all the droppings off the window. These windows need new putty around them. You can feel the breeze coming through. A lot of it, the putty, you can just pull out with your bare hand. I need to reattach these. I need to paint this sill still. I need to reattach the cranks and whatnot, do some trims for the floor, get new registers that aren't terribly, like 10 layers of paint on them and whatnot. I got new outlets on, with new wall plates, so that looks good. And I need to figure out what I'm gonna do for a light and a fan setup. This is significantly better. So in this room, we have water coming in down here at the bottom. It's not gonna damage anything in here. Everything's off the floor. It's nothing crazy, nothing important. But the concern is that the water gets halfway through the foundation or partway into it, and then it freezes, it expands, it cracks, and damages the foundation even further. So what I'm going to do is dig on the other side and down as far as I can get to the crack, and then I'm going to see about how I go about sealing that crack up so water doesn't get into it. So I'll be honest, I've never fixed a crack like this, so I don't know the proper way to do it, but I assume you don't want anything in there. So I'm kind of using this pick. We use these in car audio, pulling interiors apart and stuff. So I'm just using this to kind of clean as much junk out of here as I can. And I think I'll hop over and see if I can pull the silicone out from where the internet guy ran the fiber, so I can move that up to the IT room like it's supposed to be. So I've picked all the dirt away, as well as this loose concrete. Maybe it's stucco, I don't know. But I've picked away what was loose. So we got this whole area to seal up. This area up here, this area up here, all the way down here. Probably, this one looks sealed. That one probably looks sealed. There's a little tiny crack there. But it goes all the way down. This section came out super easy. And then the rest of it's pretty solid. Goes all the way down there. I don't have a pressure washer, so I'm not sure how to get to that. So I think what I'll do for now is seal down to the dirt line, and then borrow a pressure washer from work and see what I can get done with that hole there. Probably. I was able to get all the silicone out of the bottom hole. So if I can do the same at the top one, which it looks like I can, then I'll be able to move the fiber up here so that it goes directly into the IT room instead of downstairs. And then the ONT can be on the backup battery, so when the house loses power, I still have internet. I can still access the security from outside the house and all of that good clean fun. While I'm up here, I'm looking at the mount for the service coming in, and it looks like it's just a single bolt that was on a nail up here. A single nail, and the nail's tipped down, so I should be able to just pop a bolt up there that's not tipped down. I have some hooks around here actually, and that'll get me at least restore the drip loop. And then I still have some of these mounts here. This one's rusted and broken. And that one may or may not be good, but then I can at least restore the drip loop, and there'll be less stress on the mount up here. So here, as the connector goes through, it gets through the first layer of brick and then turns enough that it, when it gets to the hollow section, that it can't get through the second layer. So I've just taped the zip tie to it. The zip tie will go all the way through. And then working with fiber, a lot of people say, oh my God, it's so fragile. You can't do anything with it. You gotta be super careful. And it's actually not that bad. The black section here is more fragile than the yellow section. But I've worked with fiber a ton. I've even tied it in knots. You can lose signal when you tie it in knots because it bends too much, but I've never actually successfully broken one. I've broken ends, but not the actual glass itself. So don't be too worried if you have to do something like this at your house. And then one last note about doing things like this. The cable guy, when he installed this, the Ethernet was running straight across here and then directly into the hole. So it's a straight line across. There was no drip loop. And the drip loop is basically, so anytime you get water on it, if it's hanging down away from the hole, the water will run away from the hole. So anytime you're running cables in or out of your house, try to make sure on the outside that the cables are going down so the water runs away from the building and away from the hole. That'll just naturally keep the hole dry. So I'm gonna throw some silicone in this, and I'm gonna grab one of the screws and mount down here, so it's just kind of a big loop like that, which is excessive for what this is. I could easily remove that one and just have a gentle loop coming over to here, but that's not needed. It's just extra stuff to do. But I'm just gonna do this. It'll drip down. And that'll be a nice clean little thing. I just need to patch the hole down at the bottom, and I'll do that when I'm dealing with the foundation stuff. All right, so I have the ONT set up here now. All that does is transfer the fiber signal into an Ethernet signal, and then goes off to my router. The fiber coming in is an SC connector. It's pretty standard for fiber infrastructure or data infrastructure. Another common connector in data world is an LC connector. In this case, this is a transceiver. It can receive and send light. This particular connector is a dual LC connector, so you'd have one for sending light and one for receiving light. These are common in data connections. They're often used in SFPs to go from switch to switch and router to router, stuff like that. But we also use these in live entertainment quite a bit. They use for sending data from device to device. Oftentimes, like an HDMI will get converted to fiber over one of these LC connectors and shot off to a receiver. The other common connector that we use in entertainment is an ST connector. And this is super common for carrying SDI's video signals. So from cameras to switcher, and like switchers to LED screens and projectors and stuff like that. The jacket on the cable typically means something, not always, but it typically means something. The yellow is oftentimes single mode fiber, and this blue here is multi-mode fiber, specifically OM3. But you can get stuff made however you want, so it doesn't always mean that that's what it is. It could be something different. But either way, this is now up here. If the power goes out, it's running on the UPS. The Mini is set up to shut off after 5 minutes. So I think it's something like 2 or 3 hours or so that I get on this UPS after the Mini shuts down. And eventually I'll have another one just for computers. And then this one could just be for network gear, and it'll stay up for a very, very long time running just network gear. So this is ugly as sin, but it'll work. It's basically a piece of wood screwed to the fascia piece with a camera on it, and the line's coming up. And to get the line into the house, I ended up drilling from the outside up at an angle all the way through, and then I fished the line through the hole. I pulled the fascia away from it, pulled the line back down so it actually tucks in behind, so I can fill that hole with silicone, and the house will be safe from water coming in. So now I just need to fish the line inside the house, and then because of the app, I can actually sit here on the ladder and get the adjustment just right on this. So meet you back inside to run the rest of the line. So there we have all the cable. It tucked itself up. I was kind of hoping it wouldn't have done that exactly, but it's there, and I need to run it over there, which is the bathroom that's all torn apart. So it's probably not the easiest to see, but it comes up this way, snakes in behind there. There's a small opening, comes up, and then it shoots over. And there's actually a little hatch to the last crawl space. So it comes up and out the hatch right now. And the goal is to actually get it down and into the crawl space I went into a couple weeks ago. It's on the other side there, then it'll come out the hole that the rest of the stuff is coming out. So instead of trying to climb up here, I just taped the Cat 5 to this little stick and just kind of jammed it through that hole down there. And now I'm gonna go to the front crawl space and see if that went far enough that I can grab it. So there's our stick. I ended up having to actually grab another stick and push that through. It wasn't long enough. But as you see, I got it through. So now I can pull the rest of the slack into this area and then go back up through that little hole and finish the run. So you've seen this view before, this crawl space. So now the line comes up and through that hole there. And that's kind of the back of closet for the bedroom number 4, the bedroom I'm moving into soon. But yeah, so it comes down over the roof of that, over the ceiling of that bedroom into here and fall up to the hole. And now it's in there. I can plug it into the rack, fire it up, and aim the camera. All right, so now I've tied it in with the bundle coming out of the wall. It's going up to the panel, the patch panel, and to the switch. I've already got an alert that there's a new device on the network, so I know that it's working. That would have sucked because I forgot to test the cable before. You should always test the cables before doing a run, especially a run like this. But now I can fire up the software, set it up, and go aim the thing. I dropped by the Restore today, the Habitat for Humanity, and I picked up a light so I can replace this dangly old thing and get something new up there and a lot better looking. And it should be a little easier to swap out some lights. I definitely did want multiple bulbs again. There were several that only had one. And I just didn't find, I mean, this one looked all right, but I just didn't find anything on Home Depot and Lowe's that I really liked. But this one actually looks decent, and it was only $10, so hooray. So this here is a crank mechanism for the window. Kind of sits in the window here, and this arm reaches out to the bottom of the moving section. And as you turn this is loose, it's not gonna actually turn it, but as you turn it, this arm moves in and out to open and close the window. As you can see, they're in pretty rough shape. Quite a bit of patina on them, and some of them are just flat out rusty. So what I did was I took the ones out of bedroom number 2, and I took them down to a machine shop near work, and they do all sorts of little cash jobs for us. And I had them bead blast them, and they came out significantly better. Took them all apart first, but yeah, they came out. They look significantly better. So I just need to hit them up with some paint, make them look nice and clean again. I forgot to take the crank handles, and I need to figure out a way to remove the latches for a day. Basically, as the window goes in, they kind of hook into the window, and without the latches, there's no way to hold them closed. So I need to figure out some way to do that. But when they come back, they'll be nice and neat, and then the window frames will just look ugly compared to the rest of the hardware. So the new light is up, so I think tomorrow I need to continue cleaning up stuff outside and work on some trim around here, get some vents in place. And this will actually be pretty close. I do have to do a bunch of work on the windows as well. So here I am outside bedroom 2. You can see all this is peeling away. This stuff is cracking away. So I have a bucket of new putty. I'm gonna try to remove the putty from both of these panes. Hopefully not drop a piece of glass as I pull them out. And then I'll clean out the frames, and then I'll put the glass back in with some new putty after cleaning up the glass. So what seems to be working best so far is to take this here, it's got serrated edge on it, just kind of hack along the edge with the glass, and this stuff kind of pops on out. A friend of mine is a glazer. He told me to wear gloves because there's probably lead in this. The only reason I'm not wearing gloves right now is just so I can actually control the phone and get the camera running. So I'm gonna put the camera back away and put some gloves on and keep going. So I knew it would happen. I just didn't expect it to happen on the very first one. But yep, broke this window in 2 places. Right here in the middle and right here on the end. This glass just feels fragile, just holding it. But if you remember, there's a bunch of glass panes sitting around this house. So I'm gonna go see what all is close to fitting this, and then grab a glass cutter and see if I can't make a new piece that's roughly the same size. So I found this in the garage, and it fits in the length dimension, and it's a little bit wide. So I'm gonna see if I can remove this frame, and hopefully the glass is still close enough to fit. And if so, then I'll give it a slice down here and hope I don't break it when I cut it. And it looks like it's gonna come apart, and I'm just tapping in it with this here. So it's actually at a slight up angle, trying to keep from putting pressure on the glass itself. Although this glass does feel much more resilient than the other glass. The other glass just feels fragile. Kind of like the cheap drinking glasses you get at Dollar Tree. So that worked. I was able to remove the frame without breaking anything. And let's measure this. We're looking at 35.5 inches to fill the window. And we come up an inch short. I'm gonna set it in place and see if I can make up the inch with putty. So I've set the piece of glass in the bottom of the opening, and it comes about an 1/8 inch short at the top. So it's not gonna work for this one. And if we take it over here, we got a piece of broken here. Do the same test, set it there, and it's just perfect, which means it won't actually work. But I need to do the same thing with this whole window. So it could work here and at those two if I happen to break those when pulling this. So we'll give it a shot. This piece is bigger in both dimensions, but we'll do the same thing. It's big enough that I know 100% it'll work as long as I don't break it when cutting it. So I'll do the same thing. I'll remove the frame, take some measurements, and see if I can't get this thing in the right size. These frames are essentially pressed together with these pieces here. They kind of just extend in. I'm assuming they extend out the other direction, so you can actually tap it from either way. But yeah, they're just pressed together. They come apart fairly easily. So I've measured this length, drew a line, used a T-square to get a nice square line. I'm going to use this as a guide to cut to score it, and then basically you have to kind of snap it. And if it's anything like the tile stuff I've seen on YouTube, you don't just kind of like snap it with your hands like that. You just kind of put some pressure over the score. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this as a straight edge, score it, and then kind of, that's what the blanket is for, to take some pressure and just kind of push down and see if it'll snap where I need it to snap. So this glass is more flexible than the other stuff, so just using this and pressing down on it wasn't good enough. So I kind of hung it off the end, and I did that, and it worked. It's not a super straight cut, but it didn't break anything. So now I need to make the next cut, which goes this long way, and this can be set aside for a little window if I need to. So doing the other side didn't go nearly as well. It's decent down here. It's mostly straight. There's a couple areas I kind of use the hammer to chip out. But there's this section here. That may be narrower than the frame. And if it is, I think I might just glob up some putty and make that work. So I've hacked out all the putty from this side on the fixed window. And now I'm gonna go inside and see if I can't use this tool right inside the glass and get it to pop free without breaking. There is a small crack right here, but other than that, it looks like it's doable. So let's give it a shot. Ah. Whew. Yikes. So as you just saw, that crack grew into a full-on break. But it's a pretty clean break, so I think I'm just gonna reuse this as it is. Because like I said, eventually this room is gonna get demoed. I'm just gonna snug this up and get it in, and it's not nearly as bad as the first window that broke. So it shouldn't be all that terrible. But now I gotta go clean the rest of the old putty out of here. I really should have waited to paint these until after I did this. That's what the blanket's for. But I just need to clean the rest of this out. It's not going too bad. Sometimes it's easier from the ladder, sometimes it's easier from in here. But get the rest of it out, and then it looks like the way it was done, there's a thin layer of putty on the inside of the frame. Set the glass in place, and then you do the putty that kind of fills in on the outside. And I also took all the hardware off. I'm gonna get it bead blasted just like the other stuff, and then I think I'm gonna go ahead and paint the insides of these frames to match the sill here. So this one will be blue everywhere, and then that one will be white on the inside. But that'll also, I'll have to sand some of this down, and yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. So this is the section of the glass that kind of carved in a little bit. So I should be able to fill that in with putty pretty easily. It'll just kind of look ugly. It's not ideal, but it'll work. So I don't have to go figure out another piece of glass for this one. So here is a close-up of the little spring clips. It kind of holds into the frame right there, and then this little tab holds the glass in place. And then it just gets buried in the putty as you do it, and you never see it. So what my friend told me is to only work this until it's good enough. And that seems to be a really good advice. It looks not very good. It looks better than it did, but I seem to be having the better luck of kind of mushing it in and then kind of work it flat and work out towards this edge to get a nice clean cut on the edge, while also pressing in to make sure it doesn't peel away from the glass. And that seems to be working well. Again, it's not the prettiest. I'd imagine you do this, well, I mean, new windows I guess don't do this, but back in the day when you did this a lot, it went a lot faster and it was a lot easier to get a really beautiful job out of it. But I'm just an amateur, so. All right, so the first one's in, and it's not great looking, but I'm pretty satisfied with it because, well, it's my first time doing this, and it could have turned out a whole lot worse. So now it's time to work on the other side. I got this filled in, and it doesn't look bad. It, you know, I guess my inexperience with this is good enough to hide what that is. So you can't see that it's actually broken there. But yeah, now it's time to work on the other side. So the other one is in. This is a pretty flush fit here, so it should do fine. But I'm pretty happy with, you know, just a small afternoon of doing this, how smooth I was able to get that. It's not perfect. Definitely, you know, wouldn't want to charge somebody for that, but it's definitely not bad for a guy doing it for his first time. So the next thing is I took the hardware off of here so I can get it sandblasted to match the rest of it. So now I just need to figure out how to keep these windows closed for the next 24 hours or so. So my solution is actually kind of brilliant. The little stub from the zip tie wedges into that little tiny hole there, and then we just kind of zip her up. And there's not a lot of force that goes on the window anyway, so that's all that's needed to hold the thing shut. So I can do the other one, and we're set.